Welcome back to Unboxed, everyone. Today, we are going to be dealing with a topic that's becoming more and more prevalent and that people are asking more and more questions about, and that is ADD and ADHD. So, when I mention ADD and ADHD, ADD is now known as primarily inattentive ADHD, and then there's hyperactive impulsive ADHD, and then we can have combined type. So let's just take a quick look at what these are, but we are going to be going into depth into them in other episodes. Now, like I mentioned, we once used to refer to ADD or attention deficit disorder, but it is now known as primarily inattentive ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. With the primarily inattentive, it's different to the hyperactive impulsivity in terms of behaviors. This one, which was formerly known as ADD, has more to do with organization, forgetfulness, concentration, focus, down that line. But there's a lot more to it. So let's get into what some of the signs and symptoms are for primarily inattentive ADHD. This can include difficulty keeping attention, often seeming to not be listening, failing to pay attention to details, difficulty organizing tasks and activities, frequently losing things, getting easily distracted, forgetfulness, avoiding tasks that require sustained mental effort, and trouble following instructions. Now, as you can see, these are things that are not uncommon, they're not abnormal, they're things that can happen at any given point in time. Hey, half of these things even happen to adults, but we'll get into that in another segment because yes, ADHD can progress into adulthood and you can experience these same things when you're grown up. Because commonly, ADD or ADHD is usually diagnosed from childhood, but like I mentioned, it can progress into adulthood, and of course, adults can experience various forms of ADD or ADHD. However, what I want you to keep in mind is that if your child is experiencing any of these things, or any one of you are experiencing any of these things, please ask yourself if you are stressed, if you are experiencing any other form of mental health illness that could be contributing to these signs and symptoms, or if there's anything going on in your life at that moment that could be a stressor or a trigger and causing these things to happen. You also have to keep in mind, when did it start? How long has it been happening? Has it been increasingly getting worse? And does it affect your daily function? Now let's take a look at hyperactive impulsive ADHD, which is the type that I think everybody basically knows, and it's where this person or child mostly is very hyper, very restless, they're always moving, they can't sit through anything, they're always doing something. These tend to be the talkative ones in class, disrupting the class. But there's so much more to that, so let's dig right into it. This can look like fidgeting hands and feet, or moving constantly while seated, running or climbing inappropriately, feelings of restlessness, difficulty engaging in activities quietly, always on the go, excessive talking, blurting out responses, problems taking turns, inability to stay seated, and frequently interrupting others. Now, when a child is experiencing the hyperactive kind of ADHD, then most times we mistake it for, oh, this child is misbehaving. This is a bad behaved child. Why is my child like this? But if you notice that your child, for example, cannot sit through an episode of cartoons, cannot watch a movie, cannot stay still, that they can't focus their attention for that long, then please more or less think down this line. But however, if when it comes to playing and comes to watching shows and doing things that the child likes, they are very much grounded, very much focused, and they can concentrate for long periods of time, then you may have a misbehaved child on your hands. And like I mentioned, there's a combined type, which is what we used to know typically, the ADHD, where you have the attention deficit and the hyperactivity. So the combined type just means everything we mentioned from the primarily inattentive and things that we mentioned from the hyperactive impulsive, they're both present. So if you suspect that your child or as an adult that you may have this, please go and seek professional help, someone who can diagnose you and of course help you with this.